Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 8, 2022, back here for Daily Shakeup number 550. And today I want to talk about wrongness. In particular, our willingness or lack thereof to acknowledge when we're wrong. Now, I'm guessing every one of you will say, hey, if I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it. But notice that statement alone. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it. In other words, you have to demonstrate to me that I'm wrong. You have to prove to me that I'm wrong. And if you do, then I will admit it. See the problem? See the problem in our leadership and our communication, the way we interact with others, the way we hear them or don't. So here's the invitation. What if instead of being willing to be wrong, we started with the assumption that we're wrong? You see, most of the time we start with the assumption that we're right. And if we can overcome that hurdle of that assumption, then perhaps we're willing to acknowledge that we made a mistake, that we had some unintended impact. Typically it is unintended, or that we were just frankly wrong. The challenge is that when we start with the assumption we're right, and that's what most of us do. In fact, we love to say, hey, I don't care if I'm right. I don't need to be right. Well, if that's actually true, then why are we starting with the assumption that we're right? Why are we starting with that assumption if it doesn't matter? And I have learned that if I assume I'm right, the mountain I create, not only in my own mind, but with others, is pretty steep and high to get to the point of just acknowledging mistake, some wrongness, some unintended impact. I tend to start with the assumption that there is something wrong in what I did or how I did it, or in my conversation, in my communication, there's something I missed. And because of that, instead of saying, am I wrong? Which, you know, your gut is, if you say to yourself, am I wrong? Did I make a mistake? Did I have an unintended impact? Your gut response, starting point is, probably not. But if you instead start with that assumption that I was wrong, that I made a mistake, that I created some unintended impact, you will find that it opens up the conversation. It opens up your vulnerability. It builds more trust. That's a big one. It builds trust, because if you think you're always right and you leave it to others to prove you're wrong, that breaks trust, because what you're saying to someone else is, hey, I hear what you're saying, but I don't really believe what you're saying. And that's about you, not me. And that mindset and that unconscious statement of it's about you, not me, is not leadership. It's the opposite of leadership. So if you want to own your leadership and really own your impact, be willing to take the risk, the vulnerability, to start with the assumption that what someone else is sharing with you is right to them, which means make the assumption that you're wrong, that you made a mistake, that you did or had some unintended impact. It will truly transform your leadership, your influence, your trust, and your relationships with all those you claim to serve. That's it for today. Keep taking care of yourself and everyone around you, and by all means, stay connected.